up, everybody? Welcome back to another video, and in this video we're talking about the Detroit Lions game on Sunday. The Detroit Lions will take on the Minnesota Vikings. For the second straight week, they will play a divisional opponent. Could this game be considered a must-win already? Let's get right into it. Detroit Lions are playing another divisional opponent Sunday versus the Minnesota Vikings, and as we know, last week they lost to the Green Bay Packers 20. Whoa, hold up, wait a second, guys. I'm looking at these analytics, and I see only 18% of the subscribers have clicked the bell and turned it to all notifications. Now, I know y'all want the Lions to win more than 18% of the game on Sunday, right? So let's start over here. Click that bell, turn it to all. That's all I'm saying. Just click the bell, turn it to all. I'm telling you, there's a good chance the Lions will win 100% of the game instead of 18% then. All right, guys. Thank you guys for that. I'm sorry. I just had to do that. I had to do it, okay? So, I'm out. 3-22. So right now they sit at the bottom of the division, but the division is way closer than it seems with them sitting at the bottom because if they would have beat the Green Bay Packers, they would be sitting at first in the NFC North. But now the Detroit Lions are focused on preparing for this Minnesota Vikings game. And the Minnesota Vikings are a really good team, but they've definitely shown some inconsistencies throughout the season. But is this one of those games that we can consider a must-win already for the Detroit Lions? Well, I think there's one way you would consider it a must-win, and that is if the Green Bay Packers end up winning this weekend. If the Green Bay Packers beat the Raiders, they will jump to 6-1, and a loss for us would really put us in a pretty big hole pretty early in the season. Now, it's not impossible to get out of that kind of hole, and if they lose, it's not like mathematically they're out of the playoffs or anything crazy like that. But this is a really, really big game for the Detroit Lions with an opportunity to jump right back into division race for first place, okay? Because if they could win this game, they would automatically jump over the 4-2 Vikings because that would drop them down to 4-3, but give them a win, move them up to 3-2-1, and now you're fighting with the Bears and Packers, but you still only have 2 losses on the season. So this is a very, very big game, and you could consider this a must-win. But I'm actually going to look at this more as a huge opportunity for the Lions after one tough week, after a tough loss that I know all of our fans are very upset about. This is actually a game where the Lions have an opportunity to scratch that all out and jump right back into the race and get a lot of momentum going. As we know, Lions players were not happy about last week's loss against the Green Bay Packers for many reasons. But they are all really excited to play the Minnesota Vikings. They all wanted to get back to work. So what I want to see is to take out some of that frustration on the Minnesota Vikings. Now, Mike Zimmer actually talked a little bit about the Detroit Lions quarterback Matthew Stafford, who has been outstanding so far this season. He says, well, he's been outstanding, just like I said. He says he's the best he's ever seen. He throws the ball in tight windows, he pulls the trigger, he makes the right reads, and gets the ball out quickly. Now, the Minnesota Vikings are notorious for giving the Lions a lot of problems offensively. Getting a lot of sacks on the Detroit Lions is something that we've seen the Minnesota Vikings do time and time again. This is something that the Detroit Lions have struggled with. Matthew Stafford talked about how they put a lot of pressure on this offense and how they make it tough for this offense to score when they play the Minnesota Vikings. Now, the Lions have been competitive with the Minnesota Vikings for the last few years. Lions win some, Vikings win some. So this is usually a really, really good game. And as we know, it's going to be in Ford Field, so that should help. These fans should be insane on Sunday at 1 o'clock to take on the Minnesota Vikings. But as we know, the Detroit Lions offense, like I said, has struggled. What could be the X factor? What could change that? Well, you have to make it so that pressure is slowed down, okay? And starting the run game is a huge opportunity for the Lions this Sunday. This is something that, as we know, when Darrell Bevell came in, we thought this was something that Stafford was going to get back, a running game. Finally, the running game was finally coming into view, right? This is finally where we are sitting. We're able to run the ball. We saw that versus the Kansas City Chiefs, but other than that, really haven't seen it all year. We need that to take off against the Minnesota Vikings because to slow down a pass rush, a team that gets to you a lot, the team that sacks Stafford a lot, you have to have that run game going. And like Mike Zimmer said, he gets the ball out of his hands very quickly, which is definitely beneficial when a team gets a lot of pressure on you. But at the same time, if you can get that run game going, it makes a huge difference. So hopefully the Lions can get that going. Now, the Detroit Lions really struggled last week to stop the run against the Green Bay Packers, okay? And a lot of it had to do with missing so many guys on the defensive line. They missed 2 of their best players in Mike Daniels and Deshaun Hand. But Deshaun Hand, they still haven't even seen play this year. Well, he was limited in practice, but we still didn't see Mike Daniels in practice. Now, Detroit Lions had a Monday night game, so they actually didn't practice one of the days, so it's kind of weird. But they did list them, and they listed him as limited. They listed Deshaun Hand as limited, and they listed Mike Daniels as not practicing. So he did not practice. We'll see if he comes back by the end of the week. Hopefully he can get back. And this is where really the trade rumors come in because, you know, you see all these injuries, and it's like, okay, Where are the Lions sitting right now? Now, they do have John Atkins, who they brought up last week to play against Green Bay Packers. I would not be surprised to see him again, especially if Mike Daniels cannot go. For Detroit Lions, looking quickly at that injury report, here's what we have. We have Rick Wagner, who just kind of came on this list with a knee injury. Apparently, he's dealing with a knee injury. Now, he was limited in participation, but Rick Wagner is a guy that definitely struggled against Green Bay Packers. In my opinion, he was getting just blown out of the water against Smith. So maybe this is a reason why he was struggling. I don't know. Maybe this came up after the game. Maybe it came up during the game. I'm not sure. But apparently he's dealing with a knee injury. Hopefully he can be better and get healthy, because right now he's ranked 56th among Pro Football Focus tackles, okay? Looking at the rest of the team, Quandre Diggs, Deshaun Hand, Darius Slay, Hogan Thomas, and Ashawn Robinson are all limited. And like I said, there has been no participation for Mike Daniels, at least up to this point. So hopefully he can get back and get healthy. And I know there's a lot of people that, hey, want to see, let's go get a pass rusher, especially if injuries are going to be like this. We'll see if the Detroit Lions decide to make that move. Matt Patricia also talked about this upcoming Minnesota game, and he said basically we're going to try to control what we can control, because last week was a problem with a lot of people. Everybody was upset about that game, but he knows that he can't control any of that. And yes, it may be upsetting, but he needs to have his team locked in and focused. And that's where I say let out that frustration on the Minnesota Vikings. This is a huge game. The Lions really can get back into the race just like that if they can find a way to get a win over the Minnesota Vikings. Division games are going to tell the story on whether or not the Detroit Lions make the playoffs this season. Can they win their division games? And it's like that all the time, okay? This is nothing new. But it does mean there's a big opportunity for the Lions this weekend to gain a lot of ground and a lot of traction. But it also could mean the Detroit Lions could start tumbling down these standings, okay? The Detroit Lions right now sitting in last, but it's nothing that I'm worried about. As long as the Lions can take care of their business this week, they have a good chance to get a run going, and I can definitely see the Lions ripping off a whole bunch of games in a row. So we'll see what happens. I want to know your thoughts and comments below. Do you think this is a must-win game at this point in the season? Let me hear them in your comments below. Also, check out the Dodge Shop if you want to. The link is in the top of the description. I appreciate you all for stopping in. Thank you, Prep, for watching, and I'm out.